Who owns the facts? Who owns the knowledge? How is knowledge spread? When we heard all the discussions and the kerfuffle about the COVID plague and all the noise we heard about the vaccines, that it was assumed that members of the public have no knowledge of vaccines or viruses. Well, when that is just part of the knowledge delta, if you like. Knowledge flows from its source, wherever that is and whenever that is in time. And through observation, that knowledge is made into a fact by agreement, a consensus amongst enough people. They can have a consensus. That is a fact. That goes into the public realm, if you like, into the social realm, and becomes accepted by that's a part of society, which is already tuned into where knowledge comes from. It's like creeks and rivers. And in an estuary, the water won't flow along over the banks unless there's a flood, but water flows along the waterways that's already been made by previous knowledge. And the more the knowledge has been had before, the easier it is for knowledge to flow. So when you get people on one side or other side of the political media, which political media has become extremely political, which is a sad thing really. The media should always times be as impartial as possible, but it no longer is on either side of the realm. What media has done is led the charge of vanguard, if you like, against members of the public who, through their own endeavours, have gained enough knowledge in enough things, not to make them absolute experts, but to give them some sort of insight that allows them to discern whether something's right or wrong, whether something's a fact or not a fact. So if you're being brought up to live by that means, which many people have, you don't necessarily have what is called a belief system. The best thing is to believe in nothing. Therefore, if you believe in nothing, like the sun comes up tomorrow, yes, and we'll see the moon in the sky, and all those sort of natural things, and the birds will sing. That's just the way it is, and they're accepted facts we can't argue with. But when you get when it comes to the point when the facts are known by enough people who have got no political or media persuasion whatsoever, but those people then are for want of a better word, have been threatened by the cohorts that do not have the same amount of the knowledge about various aspects of even climate change and even vaccines and viruses. All have different perspectives to them that haven't been wholly investigated by the media. And it's a shame, because it means that people are being ostracized, not because they're dumb, but because they're insightful enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to go into the flow of knowledge, rather than be left on the outside of knowledge looking in on following the crowd. Because this following the crowd, they seem to think this is the way of progress. When I've seen the crowds stampede through Chicago and places like that, for example, and all these protest movements that are happening around the place that are actually extremely regressive in the way they are regressing, that they're destroying the very structures and infrastructure that is required to maintain the economy, which then produces jobs, makes profit, so companies can pay taxes and workers can pay taxes, etc., to keep the economy flowing and the cash flow flowing. It cannot possibly be a progressive, in any sense of the word, if knowledge about a simple behaviour, the moral behaviour of people, is ignored as well. Because the moral behaviour is also, it's not a religious thing, it's a logical and a common sense thing to have moralistic behaviours that then found society and makes it safer and more law-abiding. And if it's more law-abiding and safer, it's much more economically viable as well at the same time, and you end up with far fewer people in jail, which must be a good thing of having a moralistic system. We can go back way before religions, before Islam or Christianity, or even probably before Buddhism. There was sets of laws is described in Sumeria in the tablets that people had to obey, which are very much the same laws we have in society now. Do not steal, etc. So we can see the knowledge of what a moralistic system is founds a society and progresses a society in a more positive way in some ways than those who say they're in progressing society and take no responsible act in such a irresponsible manner in the streets of America at the moment. And same is also when it comes to all the people becoming homeless. Surely, goodness, that should be a problem that's solvable by people behaving themselves a far better way than they do and staying away from drugs and alcohol and such as like, which means they're no longer fit to live in the premises. So when it comes to knowledge, what is knowledge? Knowledge is very simple things to learn. It's not complicated. But if you've never been fed into the valley of knowledge or the tributaries of knowledge from when you're a child, maybe you don't quite understand who has the knowledge and where the knowledge comes from. The knowledge comes from the ether. It's random. It happens random. It's called random selection. Knowledge comes and sprouts up out of the think tanks in the world and out of individuals who are thinking about the world.